Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and the objective of today's video is to make this thing become part of that thing, and ideally have it actually start and run at the end of it, and also the side project not die of hypothermia. And if we get really ambitious, might even try and do some other work on the car as well to make it even better. Well, now we've got the cold light of day, we can have a proper look at this head that's come off, and we put the steel edge on it and it looked fine. I've given it one very quick wipe over with some brake and clutch cleaner. Let's get you closer to see what we're looking at, and I can see some little bit of marking on the head, but nothing to worry about. This was a new head in 2019. I realise that the damage takes a matter of seconds to occur, so that means nothing. What there is a bit of is this kind of adhesive-y stuff which is kind of stuck to it, and a lot of black goopy stuff which is almost again like silicon seal RTV, which is really, really odd. A lot of people have said that is very definitely wrong. Is it just some weird brand of aftermarket that I'm not aware of? I left my roll of blue paper outside last night, and guess what? It rained! So now my roll of blue paper is blue paper mache. It's not the best for cleaning, so I need to go and get a new roll of that. This I'll give a good clean up too, so it looks good. I'm not seeing anything which has given me cause for concern apart from, well, this sticky stuff here. Now, more of a worry though is the condition of the block itself and the liners, so let's go outside and have a look at that. Right, now I would be putting the head back onto the car today with the new gasket and making a crack on of, well, putting the whole car back together again at this point. However, I've given a lot of thought to the head bolt situation over the weekend. Now, you may recall we did the 200 VI 2 years ago now, I think it was. My friend James came down, who is a professional master mechanic. He knows what he's talking about. He has done more K-series engines than I have had hot dinners and any other cliche you care to throw at that situation. And he said that he's never done one with new head bolts before. I think I bought some because I wanted to do it properly, and he said it was like the first time he'd ever used them. However, these ones, looking at the markings on them, I don't think are original hub bolts. I think they've been replaced in the past. And judging by the condition of that gasket down there, which I'll show you some more of in a second, I wonder if they've been over-torqued or under-torqued or just not used properly. So for the price of 35 quid from DMGRS, discount MG Rover Spares, who supplied the head gasket kit for this car in the first place, thanks to DMGRS, I'm going to put new ones in. I mean, I wasn't going to. If they were original Rover ones, I'd have left them as they were and not replaced them. But as these are aftermarket already, I'm going to swap them out. And a lot of people in the comments are saying that you've got to do it every time, it's a bodge if you don't, that kind of comment. That's kind of main dealer service talk. They're always going to put new parts on at the main dealer because they can't afford to have any kind of failure because it reflects badly on them, and also they want to cash in. Most mechanics doing this job don't bother. I know they are stretch bolts, but they've got a lot of life in them, and it's critical, and if they fail it's a disaster because it's engine out, stump off, a lot of hassle. Generally you don't need to. However, because, as I say, unknown quantity, don't know how they've been treated, going to bin them. And also it adds to my weigh-in pile. It's always good to have more stuff for the weigh-in pile. Well, it's about 2 degrees centigrade, so just above freezing. It's dark, it's raining, and there's a typhoon blowing through here. And I've just spent the last little while, and by little while I mean quite a long time, cracking what is definitely silicon sealant off the head of this engine, or the block of this engine. There should not be silicon sealant in this area. But when the new stretch bolts arrive, then at least everything will be ready to go. Okay, a quick sit rep for you. It's now Sunday and the weather has improved dramatically, believe it or not. The rain is no longer horizontally coming through the carport. The temperature is far enough above freezing that I can touch the metal without the skin coming away from my hands. And also I did wonder if that would affect the tensioning of the bolts and things if it's that cold. And the wind has dropped down to a dull scream, so you might better hear me over it now. It is actually quite strong still, and just so you can see, we no longer have a fence in front of the Rover, so yeah, that's on the floor over there. I was going to try and put it back together again, but the fence post is rocking quite dramatically still, and it's so windy, it's like, you know, hang gliding if I try and lift that thing up and take it anywhere. So I'm going to carry on without the aid of a fence right now, and as it's all in perfect conditions for doing machine work, I'm going to get on and try and get this head back in the engine. So I'm getting everything ready to put into the engine, and I've just taken off the exhaust manifold gasket, and check this out. Whoever put this engine together last time had an absolute fetish for silicon RTV. I mean, why would you put this much silicon around an exhaust manifold? There's no reason in the world for that. I mean, just look at this. This is the head gasket itself. It's got silicon, sort of gobs of silicon around the fire rings. This is mental. I always thought the car didn't get good enough fuel economy before, and I honestly wonder if there was like bad compression because of that. I mean, that stuff should not be hanging around the head gasket, around the cylinders. That's mad. Right, so the head has been cleaned up to within an inch of its life. Well, you know, the fairly slack standards of doing it here on the driveway, a metre of its life. So we've got all the gunk, the residue, the burn, everything off the bottom of the head. It looks good, it's nice and smooth, it's flat on a straight edge, taking all the crud off the exhaust manifold side, giving the whole thing a really good clean up with a lot of brake and clutch cleaner, so it's actually shiny metal again. Even the plastics are clean. I've had to prop the bonnet up on a broom because it's blown down in the wind twice in the last couple of minutes, and it's really starting to feel like classic furious driving because we're in the driveway. The weather is getting worse by the minute. I'm not sure if you can even hear me over the wind because it is absolutely blowing a hoolie out here. I'm going to do the best we can to get stuff done in the circumstances. As in the previous video, I want to say a massive thank you to Discount MG Rover Spares, dmgrs.co.uk, who have given me the parts to get this car done. Without them, it would not be happening right now. Right, we've got loads of stuff. So we've got the full BW750 gasket kit. Now this is not the multi-layer, this is the one that's kind of more forgiving to imperfect situations. So we've got the rubber gasket for the inlet manifold, that can go on in a moment. We've got the exhaust manifold, that can go back on in a moment as well. Oh, there's some silicon on there as well. Oh my God, I just spent ages scratching silicon sealant off the back of the, or off the exhaust manifold outlets of the cylinder head. I never thought to look on the back of the exhaust manifold either. Oh, give me a second, I need to get that cleaned up as well. Yeah, and in here we've got the gasket, we've got seals for the camshafts. Not going to do that today, they don't seem to be leaking. And we've got those pegs, these locating pegs, which are these ones just here, so I'll pop them out and replace them with the new ones. I had been trying, or thinking I was going to try and get that bottom bolt out of the turbo, the 6mm one, but I'm thinking I might have just about got enough room to do this without doing that. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I can wheedle it all in there without that effort. We'll see how it goes. I did just have the genius diamond bullet thought that while I've got access to the engine by not having the top of the engine on it, it's going to be an absolute truckload easier to replace the water pump, which is just there. You can't see that. That feels quite stiff, in fact. This is the water pump, which sits just down there on the engine. I've got really easy access to it right now. I won't have once I've put the head back on again, so I'm going to change that right now. I'm some kind of genius. It's this bit down here, complete with this metal kind of shroudy edge bit here, held on with about 3, possibly 4 8mm bolts. So hopefully it's doable to get that one free. Eminently doable. And then, in a flurry of dripping coolant, that lifts out. 4 bolts came out in the end. New one can go on. I'll give that power steering pump a quick clean up as well before I put everything back together. You, mate, can go in the bin. Right, that's now clean enough to be on the back of an engine where no one's ever going to see it. I'm going to know, at least it is. It's as good as I can make it in the time allowed with blue paper and squirty brake and clutch cleaner. However, cleaning up around here, you'll never guess what I've been finding on the seal for the water pump. Yes, it is more silicon. RTV silicon sealant all around the water pump seal. It's bloody everywhere. Okay, this is going back on. It has got the very lightest smear of silicon you ever did see, just to make sure it is completely watertight. Nothing on the inside of it, on the pump side, just a little smear around the edge of the gasket, the rubber ring, just to make sure it's all nice and fully watertight. Just taking no chances here. Because this car has had a history of, I guess, head gasket problems, because the receipts show lots of effort for trying to fix stuff over the years, but I don't know if someone got desperate and dumped in a load of silicon, or they just didn't know what they were doing. Right, the wind is seriously getting up now. It's getting quite unpleasant being out here, but you know, we'll soldier on. I'm going to do this bit next because that's going to be another thing that's hard to do once the head's back on there. That's another thing for the bin. I'm getting through the old blue roller at a rate of knots here today, but everything's going to be sparkly clean when it goes back together. Now I know you can remove the head with the inlet manifold attached, but I took the view that first of all I wanted to change that gasket, and secondly it's probably easier to lift out the head on its own and easier to undo those 7 bolts than it is to undo all of everything else on the back of that. And there's quite a lot on the back of that. There are little ears on the end of here, so it can only go one way up, so you can't really get that wrong. Well, I can force it the wrong way completely and I'm sure it'll all go horribly wrong, but you know, there we go, that's all good. I'm going to put that in the bin before it finds itself in front. This is the new head gasket, shiny, lovely and new. Trying to get fingerprints on it with my greasy hands. This only fits one way around, otherwise it will foul all the passages and things. So that can go in there and we can start wheeling the head in. Right, that's in. And I'm going to position the exhaust manifold gasket in the right place as well. That's not going to go over the studs otherwise later on. Now this does have slightly more leaves in it than I'm really happy with, but hopefully we can get it into the engine without disturbing anything. I can't see what I'm doing. How my finger's stuck. It's getting it onto the studs that's the tricky bit. Once it's located on those studs, everything will come into place. Oh, the plastic cover, the pain. Brilliant. Right, so the head is now relocated, which is a big move, a big step up from where we were a minute ago. As I said, I think in the cutaway earlier, which I hope I didn't lose, I have purchased from DMGRS, Discount MG Rover Spares, a new set of head bolts. Now, as I said previously, these are regarded by many people as a replace every time item, but a lot of people don't. And don't really have any problems with it. They tend to have problems the first time around from the factory, and then having changed them, or changed the head, no problems anymore. The thing is though, because of the amount of silicone, and that looks like an awful lot of bodgery to me, I am replacing these with brand new ones from DMGRS, which are higher tension, stronger ones than from factory. So when we torque this all up to factory spec, it's going to hold the head down tighter, so it's going to have even less chance of future leaks, which is a good thing. So like 35 quid, very well spent. Right, so that's all 10 of these head bolts inserted into its little hole. I'm just going to gently spin them down. I'm not going to impact them in, I'm just going to gently spin them in with the impact, just to get them down to the point where they are ready to start tightening. This is on the E12 style thing again, so I'm not putting any tension on the head at this point because there's a very specific order to do it. I'm just winding the bulk of the thread out of them. So I'm going to spend 4 hours cranking them on a ratchet. What I'll do is I'll turn the camshafts using these bolts on the end, these nuts on the end, so I can clear all the cams out the way and then set the timing gear back to where it needs to be to tighten up. I have a feeling that's a 17mm. It is a 17, and I can wind these around to wherever I need to be and tighten the whole thing down as it needs to be tightened. And because we decked the pistons right down the bottom of that travel, so they're all nice and even, it doesn't matter where the valves go because they're not going to collide at the moment. So the fact we've now got this page open on the book means things are going hopefully well. And the order we need to do things in is starting on the centre and working outwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're starting at only 20 Newton meters, which seems really, really low. But, you know, that's what the book says, so that's what the book's going to get. Could do with being a little bit more room to work, to be honest. Okay, that's one. The most impressive thing is I think I managed to get this put back together without many leaves getting into the engine with all the wind that's blowing around. 2, 3, is this one it? Right, okay, that's the easy bit. Now, I think it's 2 lots of 180 degrees, if I remember this rightly. Let's go back and check the book again. Angle tighten a further 180 degrees. So what that means is you put the socket on there and you just literally turn it all the way around, half a clock face. And then, having done all 10 bolts, do that a second time. Right, the challenge I face at this point is actually finding enough space to turn this great big bar 180 degrees over the engine. What I've done is I've marked up with the white pen just facing into the centre of the engine on each bolt, so that as I know I've done it, when I've done a complete half turn, I know that it is halfway and then we'll have done a complete turn by the time I get to the finish. So here we go. That's 180 degrees on that one. Now you are going to do this in one smooth turn, and the thing about marking these up is that because I know they all should be pointing into the centre of the engine when they're done, if I get distracted, the phone rings or someone comes and talks to me or something, I know where I've got to. If it's all just straight black caps, then it's very easy to get lost in what is or isn't there. And this is also meant to be one smooth turn as well. Right, so that's all 180 degrees around. Now we do a second run of 180 degrees. That wasn't too hard, but the reason I've got the massive bar is because this one is going to be a bit more troublesome. One. Last one, the last one, and then the head is officially done. Bada bing. Head done. Job done. I have earned a cup of tea. Have I mentioned the furiousdriving.co.uk web store in this video yet? I really ought to. We've got calendars for 2025. They're really cool. Got loads of mugs, got new internal stickers, a nice sort of cling ones that you can move from car to car if you really want to. Only £3, so you can buy another one. Lots of mugs, hats, because it's very cold this winter. All the good stuff, and members and Patreons get 10% off. Worth mentioning that. Right, let's carry on putting this thing away. Next on my to-do list is putting this thing back into time. The bottom end of the engine hasn't moved at all. That's still correctly timed to be reassembled, but the top end has been moved quite a lot. So I'm going to move these timing marks back to where they were. Oop. Hopefully I can get these to line up again, otherwise I've got myself a bit of a problem. That one needs to be there. That one needs to match it, the little white marks. There we go. I can put this back in here. This is the locking tool. There we go, perfect. And because it's so finicky about how it will go in, you can't really get it wrong, because if it's like a millimetre or a degree or whatever out, the tool won't go back in again, so we're good. Right, I'm very happy to be putting this cover gasket and the cam timing cover back on again, because the wind is whistling through and it's carrying a lot of dirt and debris and muck through here, and I don't want that going into the top of the engine. Now, I've got some nuts and bolts in which I probably need. And the cam cover is just torqued down to a mere 10 Newton meters, which is virtually nothing, basically finger tight. Okay, the engine is back together, but there's an awful lot of stuff still to put back on. The timing belt, the auxiliary belt, the engine mount, the inlet manifold, the exhaust manifold, and loads of electrical connections and other bits and bobs. And the challenge now is to try and remember where they all went. I'm going to start though with the inlet manifold so stuff doesn't fall into the engine too much. Stuff falling into the engine too much is a bad thing. Let's line up these things, there we go. This is actually relatively easy in terms of things we need to be doing. Sometimes the bigger stuff is the easier stuff. I'm quite keen to get the cam belt on as well, timing belt, so nothing can move, but it's getting a bit dark and a bit hard to see, so it might happen in the morning. Ow, my hands are too big for this. No, don't drop it. Actually stuck. Sometimes having big hands is not the best thing in the world. Now, the more bits that aren't loose around the engine bay and the boot, the better. The boot of this car has been very full of bits of itself. So my technique here, because I can't feed the driver through from underneath without dropping the bolt, is to put the bolt on the end with a magnet, try and get the driver onto it over here. We pull the magnet away and then drive it on. Easy peasy, as they say. What do they not say? Because it's actually not easy at all. I can't remember. It's one of those things. Just 4 more to go. Now another easy bit, well kind of easy, is the exhaust manifold. I had to raise and lower the engine a couple of times on the jack just to get the studs to line up properly, and then only one of the studs would kind of stick through far enough to get a bolt on, but once I started tightening that bolt up a little bit, I could tighten up the next bolt, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then it was all very easy after that. Now I'm just running through, tightening them all up, until we've got the thing not going to fall off, which is the ideal situation. because falling off is bad when it comes to exhaust manifolds. Generally not a desirable characteristic. That's a little bit, that's 1 centimetre too short, and the next level of bar is going to be that much too long. What if I've got 16 long? Is that 16 or is that 15? 15. Have I got a long 15? That'll do that. Well, this is one of those jobs you wind up using pretty much every extension and socket that you've got because it's such an awkward thing and all different lengths seem to do the trick. 1/2 inch short extension, short socket, 3/8 medium, well, 1/4 length extension, long socket, and that just about gets us into all 5 of those. You might have noticed it's daytime again. I haven't fixed the fence yet, but it is light, and it got so windy last night and then the rain started that I had to abandon working out here because it was just getting too nasty to be here. But the next stage on this thing is to fit the timing belt. So we've got a new tensioner and we've got a new belt. So this will go back in as in like a reversal of the taking off procedure from the previous video. So we've got a 6mm Allen bolt. So we just loosely pop the bolt through there, just hold it very loosely to the side of the engine, turn this until it clicks into the right place, and then we tighten the bolt up and we are in. Just need to find the bolt, which is around here somewhere. And in case you've forgotten from yesterday, it sits just above the water pump which we replaced yesterday. Sorry, there's not really a great angle where I can put this so you can see what I'm doing properly. I'll just pop this in finger tight and then do the jiggery pokery business with the Allen key, which hopefully I'm able to get a camera onto for you for that. Okay, that is now fitted in there just finger tight so it can be rotated on that 6mm Allen key, and that is off at the 9 o'clock position to the left, and the spring is hooked over the pillar bolt down there. So what I'm going to do now is fit the timing belt and then tighten up the tensioner, and then realise there was a bit of housing stuff I should have fitted first and have to take it all off again. That's my plan going forward here. So this is one of those jobs which sounds so much more fun than it actually is. You know how much fun it sounds. So what you do, so I can't even open the box, what chance have I got of fitting a cam belt? Start off hooking it over the cam sprocket down here at the bottom, get a straight run as tight as you can up to the front pulley up here, tight across there, and then wheedle it around the water pump and the tensioner, and then it should all just drop into place. Now I've done a few of these, I've never really worked out the best way of doing it. Like dropping it in from the top is the easiest thing. So hook it around the bottom, that's the easy bit. Unhook it from whatever it's hooked on the way. Try and get it over the top. You need like 5 hands and 9 knees to do this job. It's come off the bottom already, that's good. It's now tight across the front again. Yep, that's tight across there. Okay, it won't go around the water pump. I'm going to turn the camera off because there's about to be some swearing. Right, it's all in and all done. Weirdly, I could not get the cam belt to go on there with the new tensioner. Really, really odd, and I don't like using an old tensioner, but it just would not with the new one, and I do not know why. So I have to go and buy another tensioner and try again refitting it. I've had a few problems with timing stuff. The last couple of engines we've done with timing belts that were like a 2 or 3 millimeters too short, mostly from Continental. This is all Dayco belt stuff, and it was exactly the same length, but the tensioner, I don't know, it wouldn't go on. I spent ages, absolutely ages, trying really hard to get this belt on. Would not do it. It was just too short to go around. Put the old tensioner back on. It was still very tight, but it fitted. So now I'm going to do the most important thing of all, which is to try and turn the engine by hand to make sure nothing goes clunky bangy clunk, which is a bad thing if it does. Cross your fingers for me. Here we go. So I've got the mark on the thing, so it's run to a full revolution at least once. Going well so far, I think. Yeah, my cam shafts are back where they started, so I think we've put it back together in a non-destructive manner, which is always a positive but never a given. Now I really do have about 4,000 things to try and work out where they all came from in order to put back. Right, bottom timing cover is back on, and I definitely put the really hard to get to bolt back on because I definitely want to be taking it off really easily next time as well, so that definitely happened. And the crank pulley is now back on and uggered, and indeed duggered quite significantly tight. That's going nowhere. Right, let's move the top wing cover on there, and I'll look at ordering a new tensioner, which will be here in a couple of days, and I'll take it all off again. Okay, so we've got to put the bolts back onto the turbo, we've got to put these pipes on here and 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 here, and then bolt the engine mount back on, put the alternator back in, then put the auxiliary belt and the power steering belt back in. So almost nothing to do. And of course the coolant pipe and the intercooler pipe, which I didn't need to take off under. Coolant hoses use these special clamps or clips, so they have to slide up to a certain point and then they spring down and clip into grooves in the receiving male side. So you've got to make sure you do seat them really well. And they should stay put. Yay! Hopefully, probably. Sure, that's fine. Where do you go? You go over there somewhere. I think that one, yes. That went on the back of the engine, I believe. That one went back into there. That clips and grips. Easy peasy. Of course, we've got all the HT leads, coil packs and plugs. They need to go back in as well. There is a lot of stuff to refit here. Now the alternator is going to be the painfully difficult one. Okay, I did just decide to deviate from plan A, which was the alternator, which is halfway in, but because the engine mount's not on there, it's rocking around an awful lot, and I'm trying to manoeuvre it, and it's not really going properly because the engine's moving, so I'm going to go to the engine mount again. Which does raise the question, how on earth did I get this thing out when it won't go back in? Let's just gently loosen the, oh sorry, gently tighten these things up, not loosen these things up. The engine is now sat too far forward. Okay, that's going to take a bit of finagling. So having the engine actually rolled forward into its correct position will make life an awful lot easier when it comes to fitting the alternator. So I was wondering how I was going to work on it. I've never had my fingers in there. Moving the engine back onto its mount suddenly means that I've dropped the socket. It also means there's a lot more room in front of it because it's rolling forward on its jack. Most useful tool in my toolbox. So you do need to put this one in from the top at the front because this aircon, I think it's an aircon pipe, cuts past it very tightly indeed, and you're not going to be able to feed it up from underneath. Wow! That was aircon. It's the aircon pump. It's huge. Onto the crank pulley, and then I just need to get a 13 or a 15, I can't remember now, spanner on the adjuster down there. It's basically a two-handle, a double-sided job. You need to be reaching in from above to get the 13mm spanner onto the adjuster, pull it towards the front of the car, then kind of reach underneath the wing with the other hand and push the belt on there. And then we've got the auxiliary belt on there, I hope. Yeah, it looks like it's nice and straight. And we can do the same thing for the power steering belt, and its adjuster is the visible one just here behind the crank pulley. Done! And that's lunch. Rightio. Line to the intercooler reconnected and the water hose for the radiator reconnected. Turns out it is a lot easier to get the radiator hose off if you take off the intercooler pipe. Gives you a lot more access. Right, I was about to try and connect up these, or bolt in these things. I'm wondering why they wouldn't pop down properly. Reason being, of course, I haven't put the spark plugs back in. Right, while I'm doing this, and I realised I could be putting new plugs in this, but I changed these, just like a year or so ago, when I gave the car a big service. So they've not done many miles. I'm draining the oil out. I'm aware, of course, the sump is on that side, and so it's draining the wrong way, but I'll lower it down on a jack in a minute to get the last dregs out. But yeah, basic service stuff happening now, which is the last of the things that need to happen. Well, there's one more thing that needs to happen. This needs to screw onto there. It's the earth for the engine. It's quite an important bit of gubbins. I think it's like an M8. I can't find the bolt. It must be in the boot somewhere. Cannot find it anywhere. I mean, it wouldn't be a job of mine if I didn't lose a bolt somewhere. And I didn't mention this when I dropped it last night. This is one of the bolts that holds the inlet manifold on, one of the 7 of them. And I dropped that in the night. Couldn't find it. Turned out it had landed in the big can of coolant that was collecting on the floor. We're just going to pop a new Wix filter in there as well. Finish the job. As you can see, it's a little bit later. It's dark, but I think we are basically done. I've topped up the oil. I am topping up the coolant. It keeps drinking more and more, but good news is there's no more falling out the bottom, which is quite significant. It's got fresh oil, fresh coolant, as I say. I did find that and worked out where it went to by looking at the previous video of the car. This little end of this hose I had dropped and it fell down and got stuck on the bottom of the starter motor. That bolt there I've just discovered, so I'm going to quickly change that for the correct bolt rather than the DIY one to make it fit. Well, in fact, now I can do a test start. Okay, so I do still need to go and find a new battery for this thing. The jump pack suddenly makes the interior light come on. We've got a battery in the circuit so the car will start, hopefully. So let's squeeze in. Neutral. Why is the fan starting so crazily? Right, on the Noco now, the Noco. Nearly. I can smell petrol. Oh, it's alive. I must have plugged something in wrong because that fan shouldn't be on right now. I've left the sensor off. The big question is anything pouring out the bottom? And the answer would appear to be no. Everything's running as it should. What have I not plugged in? So, can we see anything on the dashboard? Trying to wait for the temperature to rise up. Into a brake alert now as well. Oh, because I've not plugged that wire in. Well, the fact that it's running is brilliant. Nothing appears to be clattering, flashing, going wrong, disastrous, breaking itself. Nothing's leaking either, as far as I can tell yet. I need to wait for it to get up to temperature. Although I don't know why that fan is on permanently. Right, I've just turned it off because I was trying to wait for it to run up to temperature. Then it occurred to me it's never going to run up to temperature. All the while the fan is going hell for leather, 19 to the dozen, yada yada yada. I will quickly say the plan for this video was to get this done to this point over the weekend. Storm Bert happened, well, lost 2 days, and I've put this back together without the under tray and without the arch liner because we are going to go back in and deal with a bit of that surface rust on there, do a bit more cleaning up, tidying up. Also, there's a little doink I noticed in this wing. It's so tiny you'd never see it, but I know it's there and it's going to bother me forever. So while the arch liner is out, I might see if I can get a mobile dent guy to come around and have a quick fiddle with that. And when the light returns in the morning, and so I can see what I'm doing, I'm trying to figure out which wire is not connected. I'm guessing a temperature sensor because I'm getting no temperature feed to the dashboard either. I also just noticed one of the number plate lights is out, so add that to the list. Well, it's the morning and I was having a think last night about what I could have possibly left unplugged, and it's really simple, and through the magic of what I like to call daylight, yeah, I figured it out. It's the temperature switch underneath the airline off the side of the water pipe that or the coolant pipe that goes over here to the radiator. Basically that hopefully will be the thing. Right, jump pack hooked up, let's see what happens now. Oh, no fan. That's better. Problem solved. Hurrah, I can probably peel these off now. I no longer need them. I know what I'm doing. Amazing, it's actually working. So from our objectives at the beginning of the video, 1, we have repaired the engine. It appears to be in one piece, and 2, it appears to be running. 3, I didn't die of hypothermia because basically it got so cold I stayed indoors. In fact, I went off and ordered a set of cross-climate rear tyres for Mercedes because that's in a coming up video, maybe later this week. And 4, how many points have I done? Yeah, it's all good now. Yay! So this is very, very positive indeed. I've had it, well, obviously been sitting overnight, so there are no massive puddles of stuff. This is good. Now my job list for the next video, I actually edited most of the video apart from this bit last night. It ran on a bit longer than I planned to. So now one thing I will say, normally if I've done a head gasket failure car, I would drain and flush the oil and the coolant a number of times. I'm sure a few of you might even have been commenting that in the video already by this point. However, this failure seems to have been so very, very slight that there doesn't seem to be any sign of contamination in either the oil or the coolant when I drained it out. So I don't see there's any point in doing that. It's just a waste of time and money. You don't need to do it. The coolant looked really clean and just maybe a little bit tired because it's been in there for a couple of years. And the oil, I only changed it a year ago and it's done no miles. That also looked absolutely fine as well. So I think the failure was so very, very slight and it drove so very, very few miles that we basically got away with it. And no damage and no contamination. So don't have to go around worrying about the big flush out situation. Next video, going to change that rear number plate light, obviously. It's not had a brake fluid flush in I don't know how long, so that's going to get done. Get a new battery for it because that's essential. I can't keep jumping it every time I want to start it. That's just silly. Let's give it a deep clean because it's been sat basically for a year. It's been in storage, but it's been getting dusty, and it could do with a clay bar and it could do with a good polish. I might even ceramic coat it. Also, there's this little dink that I mentioned, which is just down there. I can just see it and it's really bothering me. I can check the condition of the brakes themselves in case it needs any discs or pads or anything changing. I don't think it does, but you know. But I'm just going to go around and give it a really good go over literally everything to make sure it's as tip-top as it possibly can be. Then we can look at getting an MOT on the thing. I did also find another reason I can't sell the car, and that is a little split in the fabric or the stitching just here. So I obviously can't sell a car in this condition, so it's going to have to stay now. I mean, what else am I supposed to do? I mean, seriously, I can't sell a car with a little bit of stitching gone in the seat. That's just, you know, underhanded, bad practice, obviously. I think we've got ourselves a good car here. So, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the Rover coming back together again and functioning at last. After a year sat in purgatory of storage, it's running, it's ready to drive. Just a couple of little jobs with the MOT. If you've enjoyed this, please as always hit like and of course subscribe. And join me again next time when maybe we'll even go and look at the Alpha 159, which I haven't been ignoring. Okay, I have been ignoring, but I think I now have a solution to getting the top of the engine off, and maybe it's not frosty, it's not raining, it's not a storm. We can go and look at that and maybe get that done. Fingers crossed, a second big Naughties saloon heading back to the road very shortly. Thanks for watching, join us again soon for the next one. Take care everybody, keep spannering. I haven't got a catchphrase for this bit. Fixing something completely different. I don't know, it is a new catchphrase. Goodbye.